What if I told you that a single stolen bell could represent the soul of a city?
Whoa. Okay. That's a bold statement.
It is bold.
But when it comes to the USC-UCLA rivalry, I think it might be true.
Yeah, it's more than just a football game.
Way more.
It's bragging rights, it's deep-seated traditions, it's a century-old battle for the heart of Los Angeles.
For the heart of LA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So picture this.
Okay.
Los Angeles, early 1900s,
Okay.
USC, the private school, glamour resources,
Uh,
already a football powerhouse.
yeah?
And then you have UCLA, the public university, scrappy, still trying to find its footing, eager to prove themselves.
In the shadow of their crosstown rival.
Right. Their first game, 1929 total blowout. USC wins 76-0.
Ooh, that had to sting.
It had to sing. But that crushing defeat, it fueled a fire in UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
This burning desire to overcome the odds and challenge USC's dominance.
Right.
But USC had this symbol of pride, a 295-pound locomotive bell. They called it the Victory Bell.
Oh.
UCLA would ring it after every score.
I'm sure that drove the USC fans nuts.
Oh, yeah. So in 1941, some USC students decided to take matters into their own hands. They snuck onto UCLA's campus, and they stole the bell. Hid it for 2 years.
Bold move. But it escalated the rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
To a whole new level. Pranks, vandalism.
Yeah.
Things were getting out of control.
The tension was palpable.
Yeah.
Things were getting out of hand. This rivalry was threatening to spill over into something much bigger than a game.
Right. But that's when the schools decided to make a brilliant move. They negotiated a truce. They turned the Victory Bell into the official trophy of the rivalry.
Oh, wow. What a clever way to channel that animosity into something positive. Something that could bind them together through competition rather than tear them apart.
A classic example of turning conflict into tradition. Every year, the winning team gets to paint the bell in their school colors. Talk about bragging rights.
Talk about bragging rights. This set the stage for almost a century of legendary battles, moments that have become ingrained in Los Angeles history and lore.
And those battles weren't just about football. They were about pride, identity, and the soul of a city that was constantly evolving and reinventing itself.
I'm ready to dive into some of those moments, those defining chapters in this epic rivalry. Where do we even begin?
Well, we have to start with the game of the century in 1967.
The game everyone talks about.
Yeah.
Number 1 versus number 2 national championship on the line. 2 iconic quarterbacks going head-to-head. It doesn't get much bigger than that.
UCLA had Gary Babin, the Great One, and USC had O.J. Simpson. The juice. Both teams were undefeated, and the hype surrounding the game was incredible.
It must have been electric in the Coliseum that
Oh,
night.
absolutely. The game lived up to the hype. It was a back-and-forth battle with incredible athleticism and drama on both sides.
I've seen the footage of Simpson's 64-yard touchdown run. It's legendary.
It was a defining moment in the game and a moment that solidified Simpson's place in college football history.
But UCLA fought hard. Babin still won the Heisman Trophy that year, which is amazing considering the loss.
It really speaks to his talent and the level of competition that day.
USC won the game 21-20, but it's clear that both teams left everything they had on the field. It was a moment that transcended the rivalry, a moment that captured the hearts and imaginations of fans across the nation.
It cemented the USC-UCLA rivalry as one of the most compelling in college football, and it set the stage for decades of unforgettable battles to come.
But as we know, the rivalry didn't end there. The story of the Victory Bell of these two Los Angeles Titans battling for supremacy is far from over.
In fact, it's a story that continues to unfold even today, with every new season, every new game, every new generation of players and fans who carry the torch of this epic rivalry.
So let's keep digging. I want to hear more about how this rivalry evolves, how it reflected a changing landscape of Los Angeles, and how it continues to shape the identities of these two schools and the city they call home.
I'm happy to take you there. Let's fast forward a few decades and explore some of the other defining moments that have shaped this rivalry and cemented its place in the heart of Los Angeles. As we delve deeper into this rivalry, it becomes clear that it's a reflection of Los Angeles itself.
I see what you mean. It's like these two universities embody different aspects of the city's character.
Yeah. In the early days, USC was the embodiment of ambition and Hollywood glamour. They had the resources and the national recognition.
And UCLA, being a public university, represented something different, right?
Exactly. UCLA's rise mirrored the growth of the working class in Los Angeles. It symbolized this idea that anyone, regardless of background, could come to LA and make their mark.
So you had this fascinating dynamic where the rivalry on the field reflected a larger societal tension playing out in the city itself.
Precisely. It was old money versus new money. the establishment versus the up-and-comer. And as Los Angeles grew and diversified, so too did the rivalry.
How so?
But it became less about these simple binaries and more about a shared sense of belonging to this incredible, sprawling city. Players and fans came from all walks of life, united by their love for their team and their city.
But that didn't make the rivalry any less intense, did it?
Not at all. In fact, it added another layer of complexity and passion to the games.
Let's talk about one of those layers, the Bush-push. You mentioned earlier that it kind of solidified this perception of USC arrogance, at least from a UCLA perspective.
It was a controversial moment, to be sure. Reggie Bush pushing Matt Leinart into the end zone for a game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. Some people saw it as a brilliant play. Others saw it as unsportsmanlike.
And for UCLA fans, it played into this existing narrative about USC's privilege and swagger.
Right. It felt like USC was getting away with something, that they were playing by a different set of rules.
But then, just a year later, UCLA got their revenge. They ended USC's 63-game scoring streak and crushed their national championship hope.
It was a seismic shift in the rivalry. UCLA proved they could not only compete with USC, but they could beat them at their own game.
I bet the atmosphere in the Rose Bowl that day was unbelievable.
Pure pandemonium. It was a moment of catharsis for UCLA fans, a vindication of their belief that their team could overcome any obstacle.
And for USC.
It was a humbling experience, a reminder that even dynasties can fall.
Speaking of dynasties falling, wasn't there a game in 1954 that really shifted the balance of power in the rivalry?
Absolutely. Before that game, UCLA had never beaten USC in the Coliseum.
So it was a major psychological hurdle for them.
It was. They'd come close a few times, but they always seemed to find a way to lose.
But in 1954, they had a new coach, Red Sanders, who instilled a belief in his players that they could beat anyone, anywhere.
And they did. It was a close game, but UCLA pulled it out in the end, sending shockwaves through the city.
It must have felt like a changing of the guard.
It did. It marked the beginning of UCLA's rise to national prominence and signaled that USC could no longer take their dominance for granted.
You know what's fascinating to me is that this rivalry isn't just about the big headline-grabbing moments. It's also about the countless smaller stories, the personal connections, the generations of fans who have woven this rivalry into the fabric of their lives.
You're absolutely right. Think about the players who grew up watching these games, dreaming of one day wearing the cardinal and gold of USC or the powder blue of UCLA.
For them, it's more than just a game. It's about fulfilling a childhood dream, about carrying on a legacy.
And then there are the fans who have been attending these games for decades, sharing the highs and lows with their families and friends.
It becomes a ritual, a tradition that connects them to something bigger than themselves.
It's about belonging, about sharing in the collective joy of victory and the shared heartbreak of defeat.
This rivalry has seeped into the very soul of Los Angeles.
It's in the murals you see on the city streets, the friendly banter you hear in coffee shops, the stories that are passed down from generation to generation.
It's become a part of the city's DNA. And as we've seen, it's a rivalry that is constantly evolving, reflecting the changing dynamics of Los Angeles itself. But at its core, it remains a story about passion, pride, and the pursuit of greatness.
A story that continues to unfold every time these two teams step onto the field.
Speaking of stories, are there any other rivalries in college football or beyond that share a similar dynamic with the USC-UCLA rivalry? Rivalries that transcend the sport itself and tap into something deeper about the communities they represent.
Oh, absolutely. One that immediately comes to mind is the rivalry between the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Ah, yes. The battle for baseball supremacy in the Northeast.
It's a rivalry that has been going strong for over a century, and it's fueled by a rich history, passionate fan bases, and a sense that these two teams represent something bigger than themselves.
The Yankees, with their pinstripes and their long history of success, are often seen as the embodiment of New York City, brash, confident, and always striving to be the best.
And the Red Sox, despite their storied past, have often been cast as the underdog, the scrappy team from Boston that is always battling against the perception that they are in the shadow of their bigger, richer neighbor.
It's amazing how these rivalries can take on a life of their own, becoming woven into the fabric of the cities they represent.
They become a source of pride, a way for people to connect with their community, and a reminder that sports can be about so much more than just wins and losses.
It's about the stories we tell ourselves, the history we share, and the passion that binds us together even in the face of fierce competition.
And those stories, they often transcend the boundaries of the sport itself, becoming part of the larger cultural narrative of a city or a region.
They become a way for us to understand ourselves, our communities, and the things that we value most.
And in the case of the USC-UCLA rivalry, it's a story that continues to captivate and inspire, reminding us of the power of competition, the importance of tradition, and the enduring spirit of Los Angeles.
We've talked about like the historical significance of this rivalry and its connection to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But what about the human element?
Hmm.
What's it like for the players who are actually in the trenches of this epic battle?
Oh, man. I mean, it's one thing to analyze it from a distance, but to actually be in the middle of it
Right.
must be something else entirely.
Yeah.
Imagine the pressure, the weight of expectations from fans, alumni, the entire city.
And the legacy of all those who came before them.
The players I've spoken to describe it as an electrifying, almost surreal experience.
I can only imagine. I mean, it must be a mix of excitement, nerves, and this incredible sense of pride.
They talk about feeling a deep connection to the school, the city, and the history of the rivalry.
It's like they're carrying the torch for generations of players who bled cardinal or powder blue before them.
One player who really captured the sentiment was Taylor Mays, a safety who played for USC in the mid-2000s.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this is one of the reasons you come to USC to play in a rivalry game like this. He wasn't even from Los Angeles,
Wow.
but he understood the magnitude of it.
That says a lot about the power of this rivalry to transcend individual backgrounds.
It doesn't matter where you come from. Once you're part of this rivalry, you're part of something much bigger than yourself.
And the fans. They play a huge role in this too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're the lifeblood of the rivalry. They bring the energy, the passion, and the noise.
I've heard stories about the atmosphere at a USC-UCLA game being unlike anything else in college football.
Oh, it's electric. The Coliseum or the Rose Bowl, whichever stadium they're playing in, is absolutely buzzing with anticipation.
And the trash talk, I bet it's legendary.
Oh, the chants, the signs, the back and forth banter, it's all part of the fun.
But it's all in good spirit.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're all Angelinos, and they share a deep love for their city and for this rivalry that has become such a defining part of its identity.
It's like the rivalry brings people together even as it divides them.
Exactly. It's a shared experience, a collective ritual that unites generations of fans.
And it creates memories that last a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
The wins, the losses, the close call, the unforgettable moments. They all become part of the fabric of their lives.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think about the ripple effect of this rivalry, how it touches the lives of so many people, players, coaches, fans, alumni, even those who just happen to be in the city when the game is on.
It's a testament to the enduring power of sports to connect us to our communities, to our histories, and to each other.
Yeah. As we wrap up our deep dive, I'm left with a sense of awe at the sheer scope and impact of this rivalry. It's more than just a game. It's a reflection of who we are as a city, as a culture, and as individuals.
It's a story that continues to unfold with every new season, a story that captures the essence of competition, camaraderie, and the pursuit of excellence.
So to all the fans out there, whether you bleed cardinal or powder blue, I leave you with this. What does the USC-UCLA rivalry mean to you?
And as we think about the future of this iconic clash, what stories will be written in the next chapter of this epic saga,